Hey everyone, it's Alex Ball back for another season of the No-Till Market Garden Podcast. I'm so excited to kick off my third year as a host and bring you all 10 brand new interviews with small farmers from all across this country and abroad. This season, we're going to dig deep on what it takes to survive as small-scale farmers, grow your business, and meet your individual farm business goals. We're launching our year off right with a very enlightening and uplifting interview with Jennifer Dunbar of Love Light Farm in Birmingham, Alabama. We discuss farming in a tropical climate, some directed to local schools, and much, much more. So without any further ado, let's get to the interview.
Today's episode is brought to you by Rimmel Greenhouses.
Whether it's tomatoes to market, flowers in the spring, or your family's harvest, growing in a greenhouse protected from the weather provides the right environment that you need for a harvest that you can count on. Rimmel Greenhouses are designed for durability and offer the quality that you need to grow productively year-round. Visit rimmelgreenhouses.com to get a quote today.
If I may editorialize for a second, I own a Rimmel tunnel. I love it. We built it ourselves, and I really appreciated the quality of the tunnel as well as the customer service we received in the process. So make sure to check them out. Today's episode is also brought to you by BCS America. BCS two-wheel tractors are designed and built in Italy, where small-scale farming has been a way of life for generations. Discover the beauty of BCS on your farm with PTO-driven implements for soil working, shredding cover crops, spreading compost, mowing under fences, clearing snow, and much more, all powered by a single gear-driven machine that's tailored to the size and scale of your operation. We have been using a BCS tractor on our farm since 2014, and it has saved the day and leveled the workload more times than I can count. And I find new ways to employ it every single season. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. To learn more, view sale pricing, or locate your nearest dealer, visit bcsamerica.com. That's bcsamerica.com. All right, enjoy the show.
Jennifer, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show today. I really appreciate it. For our listeners, where are you located? What's your farm called? And kind of what's your basic season? What's the Loving Light Farm story?
Hi, everybody. So I'm from Alabama, and specifically I'm sort of central to the state. I'm about 35 minutes from Birmingham, which is one of our bigger cities. And I am in the Coosa Water Rivershed. So we're very subtropical here. We get a lot of rain. I'm in a valley, so it's really nice. So a lot of times I don't get the exposure of like a winter cold front that someone might just literally like one hill over, because I'm on the other side. I'm on the south side of our mountain range, which is kind of the foothills of the Appalachian.
Wow, that's super cool. It's a really interesting microclimate you're in.
It is. It kind of is a little microclimate. You know, I will drive over the mountain and I'll see where frost has hit on Double Oak Mountain on the north side. And then over on my side, like we didn't even get any rain or frost or, it's kind of a nice little pocket there.
Yeah. And you were saying that it's like a rainy and tropical, it sounds like, place.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know there are so many rivers in Alabama. Like we're very much kind of like the Amazon of North America.
Wow, I've only been there once or twice, so I did not realize that.
Yeah.
So about how large is your farm?
So I'm sitting on 12 acres, and I have the front 6 devoted to my small business. I would call it. I'm a market gardener. I'm also really kind of a homesteader. And out of the 6 acres, I'll be growing on 3, and then there'll be 3 that are at rest or cover cropped or sort of waiting for the next season.
Oh, cool. And how long have you been on this property for?
I bought this property in December of 2020. So I haven't been here very long. I'm in my 3rd full grow season, and I'm still a new farmer. I was always a fan of farmers and like hung out with farmers, but it wasn't until a lot of life changes that I decided I wanted to completely start over.
And with that sudden jolt into farming and ag, How's your experience been as beginning farmers? We don't have a lot of beginning farmers on the podcast often. So I'm really excited to hear your perspective and kind of how the first few years of your business have been going.
Well, definitely made a lot of mistakes. I think most of it's being with my infrastructure. If I could redo all of my irrigation again, I would. If I could sort of make some adjustments for like where one of my greenhouses are, I would. But I feel like as I get into it, I'm less, every year gets a little easier in some way because they're down here, it's year round farming. So it's a bit of a rhythm. And at first I felt like I was just drowning, like absolutely drowning. But now, like this has been a year where I think I've had pretty good mental health. I wouldn't say that about last year or the year before. And because things feel more rhythmic and I'm able to anticipate a little bit more than I was definitely the first 2 years, things feel a little more manageable.
That makes total sense. And for people like me, I'm a northern farmer. We have 4 distinct seasons. How does that work with year-round production, being this hot climate? What are kind of like the basic breakdowns of your growing season?
Well, so I will run from mid-April until mid-November as far as vegetables that I've pre-sold. That's kind of how I see it. And then for the winter months right now, I'm just playing around with just using my online and continuing to have some community events. I work with a couple of different groups in the community. And so I feel like, but next year I'm actually going to kind of shift it a little in order to find some balance in my life. I'm going to actually work that full growth season, but I'm going to take July and August off from my CSA commitment so that I have 2 10-week bookend CSA memberships. And I'm going to take about 8 weeks off in the middle. In Alabama, it's a lot. Like it's really hot and I'm having to, I feel like somehow adjust for the temperature changes that are happening on our climate, right? Temperatures are going up. And with that, like I can go in the greenhouses, I can use the shade cloth over the greenhouses. However, that comes with this whole thing of like being in a greenhouse in Alabama in July means you're going to have a lot of blight. You're going to have a lot of powdery mildew. You're going to have a harbor for bugs. It's just like a little hotel where they're just hanging out and having a great time, eating everything. So I think next year I'll see if that works, we'll see if it works with my budget, because I feel like from the standpoint of having a community supported agriculture, where I have members that have prepaid for the full season, I don't want to disappoint them. And I think that's why I'm going to put some limits on myself in order to kind of reel it in.
Totally. And I can easily see that year-round production, especially in the hot weather. Like just like for us, our slow times in the winter, it's easy to stay inside and just like not go out cold. But like when it's that blistering hot out, I can imagine it being really hard on your body to get out there and do that work, especially into harvest and make the market. How do you, as far as like the seasonality of crops, so how long can you grow greens for? Do you grow greens in the summer as well? Or is it strictly we switch to hot weather crops in the summer and then cold weather crops the other half of the year?
Yeah, so it's hard to grow greens in the summer. I mean, especially when you're at 100 for days in a row sometimes.
Oh, no.
So yeah, I will sometimes try and get some started indoors, like in a little more controlled environment with a grow tower, like my lettuces, and get them a little bigger. And then I'm able to put them in the ground like mid-August for September memberships. And I think so like summer, it's going to be all your tomatoes and your peppers and your eggplant. And that's kind of it. And so like with my adjustment that I'm making, I'm really going to focus on value added products during that time so that I'm pulling off all of that produce. It's still there, but I'm not obligated to a membership. And then I'll go to the farmers markets for those months too. It's the membership obligation that I'm just sort of hoping I can take that put it into value-added product production. And then hopefully at the end of the year, it'll balance out. Because that's also something, wouldn't you love to get a can of tomatoes in December with your membership, right? To go, kind of like becoming more, my CSA becoming a pantry as well.
Yes, that makes total sense. And if you can, especially if you can pull out those summer crops in the middle of winter with value added aspect to it, and people just go crazy for that kind of stuff. They love supporting farms, and they love getting those traditional things you get from the store, but from the farm directly.
Yeah, absolutely. And have access to a commercial kitchen. I have from my past life all of my certifications for doing so, and working in that environment too.
Well, that's a great transition. What did you do before you became a farmer, and what kind of led you down this path?
Well, immediately before I got into farming, I had a nutrition company, and I was doing a meal prep, specifically a vegan alkaline meal prep. And I did that for a few years, and gave that up once I got to the farm. I was also coaching with transition of helping people, you might get diagnosed with, autoimmune disease or cancer. And the doctor might say, here's a list of foods you might eat. Well, I had created a whole menu around that, and helping it be accessible and easy. I kind of dropped the ball on it when I picked up the farm. And prior to that, I was a yoga and Pilates instructor. And prior to that, I was actually a ballerina. And that was my whole youth. So I'm sort of, I don't know, I guess I'm an artist in a way. And now it's food.
Totally. Yeah. It's transition from different arts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I feel that value added, especially if you had a really cool background in that. It seems like a really kind of a natural merger of two things you're passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can, the best customer is a repeat customer. And so just having ways for them to purchase more things off your farm that they're going to purchase it anyway, and so if they can keep it in the local economy instead of, the big box store, at the same time, I can't feed everyone, but I'm just trying to find a little niche in what I'm doing. And in this little community, that's the other thing I really love is building community. And so I'm really plugged in with my daughter's schools. We host farm stands there. We host field trips here at the farm. I also have days where kids can come out and they really can get dirty. We get to pull vegetables, eat vegetables, prepare fields for rake in, cover crop, all the things. And I've curated those experiences for them. And then I'm really sneaking in there by changing their palate. I hope, going back to my vegan food prep of a kid has to try something up to 5 times before they might decide that they'll eat it on a regular basis. Oh, maybe I do like carrots. These are a bit sweeter and crunchier than the ones in the grocery store. And so I'll also not only run the market stand at the school, the schools are using the produce as well on their, in the cafeteria as much as possible.
Wow, that's super interesting. Okay, so at this school, how often are you running this market there?
We're bi-weekly.
Okay. And how big of a school?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. And about how big of a school is it?
There are about 200 children. 100 are kindergarten and under, and then the other 100 are up from 6 to 14 years old. It's a Montessori school. And then there's another one that I work with on the other side of town that's also a Montessori school, about the same size. They don't host me they don't work with their cafeteria. They don't have one yet, but they actually are. That's what they're in the process of, is fundraising to build one. So we've tried to create this farm to table experience on their plates at school as much as possible. I have even helped facilitate creating the gardens outside the school. So this year, they, for the first time, were able to hire someone to help on property. She also works at my farm, so she kind of goes back and forth, which has been a really great relationship. So, I'm able to send starts over there. They have raised beds full of lettuce that will then go into the cafeteria.
What a symbiotic relationship. You're training people to grow the food there. You're growing food. There's so many different layers to that. You're really building a lot of community at that school. And you said it earlier, in this river valley, are you in a deeply rural space? How far are you from the school, from the communities that you mainly feed?
I was rural, but it's all moving out here. I am about 10 miles from the first Montessori school that I work with, and I'm probably 25 miles from the other Montessori school. They're a little more on the other side of town. They also have a farm stand as well. I help supply with their farm stand, and they also have an on-site pretty much farm at their school as well. So I'm just supplementing with them. And so they're both have the same goal in mind, which is that the school is like growing the food's going in their cafeteria, and we're hopefully changing the palate of these children because, fresh grown food tastes so different than
Yes.
something shipped across country.
And you said earlier about the 5 times trying something. Like, how many times, I think in my own childhood, have I eaten like kind of just gross produce 5 times in a row and be like, oh, I hate this thing. Like, I hate peas. Like, well, I don't hate peas. I hated the peas I was eating at that time in my life. When I have a good pea, I'm like, oh man, actually, I do like peas now.
It's like tomatoes. I hated tomatoes growing up as a child. Well, they were coming from, the Food Lion or whatever. Who knows where they were grown in a lab somewhere under a light.
Yeah, exactly. It was a rock hard red thing. You're like, tomato, I hate this, but really, so you're saying earlier too that the CSA farmers market. I saw on your website the farmers market you attend has such a fun name to it. What was it again?
Pepper Place?
Yes, Pepper Place.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It was so Pepper Place, which was originally a Dr. Pepper bottling company warehouse. And so it's a historical building. The history of it's pretty neat. So, Birmingham was a steel city, and there was a family who owned a steel mill, the Slosses. And Kathy Sloss, as when she in her younger, maybe 20s or 30s, started working for her father. And it was her goal to revitalize Birmingham and specifically like that downtown area. And so she and her father started buying up properties and revitalizing the area. And we can really thank them for the city that we have today because they really helped push development down there in a positive way, where we're not tearing down and building another. We're just working with what's there and the history of it all. And so, yeah, it's a really neat market. It's our biggest in the state. We can have about 2,000 to 3,000 people walk through that market between 7 and 12 on a Saturday.
Nice. A good crowd coming through there.
It used to be a little overwhelming sometimes, especially in like July. But yeah, it's a great market. I'm really thankful. To have a seat at the table there, especially as a new farmer.
And how far is that from your farm?
It's a 35-minute drive. So
not too bad.
I think I don't drive as far as some. I mean, some people come as maybe as many as 60 miles, 75 miles away. Yeah, it's a great market to be in. You're really guaranteed your sales. It's consistent. They do an amazing job engaging community as well. There's always something fun. This past week, it was like pumpkin decorating. So everyone had free pumpkins. You could decorate pumpkins. They're really engaging the community. And I've always admired that. And it really helps bring people out. It's way more fun if there's something for your kids to do versus just walking around a hot parking lot on Saturday at noon,
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I feel like, especially post-COVID, with so many markets going downhill, you really have to offer that community aspect and really offer that full picture to get people to show up on a Saturday or whatever day it is, because people are so busy.
Yeah, they also do a double dollar. So people with SNAPS benefits, they have a grant. So they double their dollar, which is amazing. So a lot of people who are able to really stretch that budget by coming down there. It's a fantastic program. I wish more markets could qualify for that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I saw Pepper Place. I'm like, what? I had to know the story behind it. So I really appreciate you sharing a little more about that market. Is that also a place where you host your CSA pickup, or is that on farm?
Actually, I work with other businesses for my CSA pickup. We have 5 spots in town. They range from like outdoor stores to spas to our Coosa Riverkeeper office and a brewery, actually. So we just leave the cooler. Everybody's bag is the same. It's farmer's choice. They get 6 to 7 items a week, and they just open the cooler, check off their name. That way, if someone didn't pick up, we know who to look for, or we just give it away. And so far, it's been working. I mean, this is our 3rd season, and yeah, it works.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that flexibility of offering those locations really helps people, catch them while they're out and about. Especially at the brewery, it's a double reason to stop in and have some fun and get your produce.
Exactly. Have a beer, meet a friend, play trivia,
Yes.
It's a great partnership. And it works out too when I do a couple of events out here. So it's nice because we're able to kind of use them as well to help get the word out or to help with sponsorships and things like that.
Oh, for sure. And is your CSA your main way of moving your product, or is it kind of split between that and the farmer's market?
I think it's split between that and the farmer's market. Yeah. And then online sales are the first thing I have added that were new recently. And so I'm getting used to that. And so I'm starting to build that market too. And that's pick up at the farm or at any of our 5 CSA sites. We're kind of playing with that. And some of it is limiting because of the software I'm using, because I definitely have some ideas for them. And so they're like, oh, we'll put that on the list.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice if people could like build their own bag, right? Because right now it's always farmer's choice. But if they could go into my system and pick which items they want, like maybe they want double kale, and then we could pack them like that. Although it could also be like a staffing headache of trying to pack so many individual bags. I don't know. I'm not there yet. But I do know the software exists to do it. It's just not the one I'm using currently, and I don't want to start over.
No, I totally agree. Once you get your system set up and you have other items listed, it's not fun at all to like relearn systems and like rebuild things. It takes forever.
Yeah, it really does. I'm finally getting comfortable with this one. So
good. And what program are you using?
Barn to Door.
Okay.
Have you heard of them?
Yeah,
they're out of Nashville.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard them before.
So,
okay, cool.
They've been great. I will say their team is great. I've enjoyed the gentlemen that have worked with me. They've all been really cool with letting me email them questions and not have to be a full throttle. Like, I don't know, like there's different levels.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally what you mean.
They let me cheat the system a little, but shh.
Yeah. No. That's super cool. And are you finding that the online market is a pretty popular option as you've been adding it? Has it been going well?
Yeah, so far, and I'm about to put an official sign on the fence at the farm for local traffic, because I've been hosting a lot of events lately, and I can't tell you how many times people pull in while I'm working in the field, and they just are like, "Who are you? What are you doing? What is this, lady?" Because it's like it's always me and maybe 1 or 2 other people with me, but they're like, "We drive by, you're out here every single day." And I guess people just don't. They're really just, there aren't a lot of farms around here that are visual that you can see from the road, and because of where we're positioned, it's actually great marketing because I'm always out there doing something, and I don't really want to put a physical building of like a farm stand, and I don't really want just any Joe Blow coming onto property. So my idea is to make it like a virtual farm stand where they pre-order, and every Friday they can pick up. It's just you open the cooler door and there's a receipt with your bag, like that's kind of what I'm envisioning. So we're working towards that goal.
Okay, yeah. I feel like, just being out in the field is a great form of marketing in itself. They can see you and you're not in a tractor like a mile away, so they can get to you.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that, you're on the farm, mainly you. Do you have any other extra labor who's helping you? You said you do about 3 acres of production. That's quite a bit.
I have it's just a funny story. I have my across the street neighbor from my old life. I lived there for 17 years. And when I moved, we were both so sad. And she now comes to the farm 3 days a week and volunteers. And she's even brought friends. And so I have probably anywhere from 3 to 6 volunteers a week. And then I have one like part-time employee, but it's in the gray. It's just like we have set days, and then when I'm out of town. And it's been nice because prior to that, I had just one farm manager, and it was just he and I, and it was just us, and it was very stressful. And once I opened the door, like for volunteers to start coming out, it works out. And I kind of, if they're newer, I have them on a schedule at a certain time, like certain days, just Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's when I bring them in. That's because we have wash and pack days on those days, plenty to do. But as they start to come more often, maybe they even have a skill. I have one friend who just loves getting to know his new BCS tractor, and he's been really helpful at helping me stay caught up. And playing around with some implements, and we're like, oh wow, look at that, look what we can do now. I really wish BCS, by the way, would teach a workshop out here or somewhere in our area. That would be so cool. Just show us all the products, show us how to, I would love to learn how to bale my own hay with that thing, and have that for that feature.
Yeah. Well, if BCS is listening, BCS America, reach out. Reach out.
Sponsor a workshop.
Okay, there it is. That's it right there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic that you've been able to allow people to do their thing, and to I know me personally, it doesn't matter if they're workers or volunteers or whatever. It's hard to have people on your land. It's hard to have people work on stuff and trust. And 3 to 6 people, that's a lot of people on your property doing a lot of things that can be that can be scary sometimes.
Yeah, I think having it consolidated helps me. Because I know they're coming. I kind of have my lists, we're working through our regular wash and pack schedule, and I'll have the newer people helping with that. And then I've got Betsy and Jill, who've been working with me, Betsy for 3 years, Jill for a year now. And I totally trust them. I mean, they can do absolutely everything that I do. I can also hand them a volunteer that will just assist them in what they're doing. When I've got another volunteer, with the BCS on property, and I can go work with him, we can kind of tackle that. Well, then I feel like sometimes I've got all these balls in the air. I'm juggling here and there, but so far so good. I've only dropped them a few times,
Yeah.
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 It hasn't been perfect.
Yeah. I think that's this natural thing. Yeah. You end up at a certain point, you're going to drop them, but it's how fast you pick them back up again, get them going again.
Yeah. Woo, woo. Yeah. Just kidding. Nobody's hurt. We're good. Right. It's just vegetables, y'all.
Yes.
We don't need to get serious about it. We're going to make mistakes, and
yes,
I
totally agree with you. And I often find that the things that really get under my skin, I think I'm thinking things are failing or going wrong. I talk to my customers, and they think it's the best version of yourself they see sometimes. And I feel it really lifts me up when they're like, oh my word, things are going amazing. We love the CSA or whatever. But you're behind the scenes, I'm stressed out every single day. I'm so worried. But to them, when they open the cooler and pick up their order, they're not seeing the weeds at the farm. They're like, oh, my produce is here.
Yeah.
So, they're so happy.
Or me at night laying awake looking at the deer camera on my phone going, do I get up? Do I send the dog? I mean, the dogs are out, but they don't always do their job.
Well, that's a great transition, actually. So you said it's rural space, hills. Are deer clearly an issue? You have a lot of mammal pest issues?
Mostly deer. just deer.
Okay.
I've got dogs that I have on property, two border collies that do their job. They're great patrollers. I've got a Great Pyrenees who I do a egg production as well. So I have about 55 laying hens. And so since I've gotten my Pyrenees, we haven't lost a hen at night anymore. They were just taking them every night. I think it was a raccoon. I don't even know. But the deer have definitely been an issue, and something I wish had I one of those mistakes when I bought this property. I should have probably worked into my mortgage a high fence. So it could be over there in like that budget, but I did not, and so it's kind of a comical battle at this point. I mean, I've got a permit from the Alabama Game and Fisheries for nuisance permit, so we're able to hunt before this season. I'm not a hunter. I'm depending on just some local high school boys who were like, "Hey, can we hunt?" And I was like, "Perfect." So they're bow hunting on the perimeter and putting pressure. But I definitely am going to need to do some fencing long term. It's just what I want and what I can afford are two different things. So finding a way to pay for that. And like lately, it's just been I'm using low cat tunnels, and that's how I'm managing it right now. Because I've only got 3 acres going at a time. It's fairly manageable, but then there's that one time like I don't get home in time. It's a little dark. Maybe I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going out and covering it up, and I don't. And lo and behold, they'll eat like all the romaine lettuce in like 5 minutes. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're pesky. Like I do the same thing on my property. I'm gonna close up tonight. And sometimes like, man, I just don't want to go and do that. I don't want to go to the farm and do that. But if you don't, I come back and all the half the bok choy tops are gone. Today just walked through and just had a little snack. And you're like, well, I should have went. I should have done it.
Should have done it. It's like, yeah, sometimes the level of exhaustion is just beyond measure. But at the same time, I love that because I sleep really well.
The great strategy, you get to sleep. Your work is work you can't work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely tired at the end of the day.
Today's episode of the No-Till Market Garden podcast is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud sponsor of the No-Till Market Garden podcast. Since 1973, Johnny's has supported farmers and gardeners with superior seeds, tools, and information to help ensure their growing success and help feed their communities and families. The research farm is at the heart of Johnny's, where they trial thousands of varieties and tools every year. Their breeding program uniquely focuses on introducing varieties that meet the needs or solve the challenges mixed market, small farmers, and avid gardeners face. Visit johnnyseeds.com for innovative new varieties and time-tested favorites to grow this season. You can also browse their online growers library, link in the description, for a wealth of free educational resources. The employee owners at Johnny's look forward to growing with you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Farmhand. I don't know about you, but I got into farming to grow food, not spend my time creating pack lists, writing newsletters, responding to emails, or maintaining web stores. If I could spend less time on my phone and computer and more time farming, that would be a win. Enter Farmhand. Farmhand is the only all-in-one virtual assistant built by and for CSA farmers. It takes care of the admin, managing orders, customer communications, and automating tedious tasks so you can get back to doing what you love. On average, Farmhand saves CSA farmers 6 hours a week. That's 6 hours you could spend with your family, out in the field, or simply taking a breather. So, what would you do with an extra 6 hours? Now's the time to get your systems ready for next season. Learn how Farmhand can help at farmhand.partners/no-till. All right, back to the show.
So you were saying a little bit earlier, you have a decent amount of volunteers with you. Do they help at market at all? Or is that mainly just you at the market?
No, they help at market too. In fact, one of the Montessori schools, their high school, middle school age group, they have required volunteer hours. And so that's one of the projects that's considered that. And so often I'll have one or two of those at market. And then my friend Betsy comes and helps me at market too. And recently I've been able to hire a couple of people in just on a need basis who have been a little relief. Market days are hard. It's like 3 to 3.
Ooh.
Well, it's because I get up at
Yeah.
3 to get packed up. And then as soon as I pull on the driveway, I've had someone be here in the morning and like do the morning chores. But by the time I'm back, it's like time to start watering again.
Yeah.
So I usually, first thing I do is I start turning on irrigation while I unpack the truck. And then by the time I do that, it's like 3 o'clock.
Wow. Yeah. It's a
I'm
full
like,
day.
oh, good Lord.
And you still have to go out and cover the lettuce to keep out the deer.
Right. You got to cover it, but you can't cover it too soon because in Alabama, it's like 85 degrees right now, So if you cover it up too soon, like,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
getting all the sunlight they need. And yeah.
So it's kind of on that same line. Is that high heat? Right now, it's it's almost November. What's the temperature like today?
It's like 85. I'm
Wow.
not kidding. It's kind of crazy. A year ago, I was looking at last year, this time, we'd already had a hard freeze. So you just kind of never know. I mean, I don't know which weather pattern we're in. If last year's was different, or, as far as like Alabama, we're usually in a drought for the month of October. So we're still in that drought. We'll kind of only get rain unless there's like a tropical storm that's come up through the Gulf or something, right? So yeah, it's a little unusually hot this year, which has not been a bad thing for me. I still have peppers on the vine, and I'm really killing it with greens production right now. Just constantly reseeding. Yeah, everything's germinating still, like really fast. I even put in some late carrots, and like, oof, they're up. So I feel like though I'm always off on my timing by about 2 weeks. Then Pawpaw at the market. I'm friends with some of the older guys, and I'm always like, oh man, look, he's already got that. I'm trying not to judge myself, but at the same time, I'm trying to like just kind of observe and go, okay, maybe I should start that sooner. I'm still, like I said, getting into my rhythm and being so new to farming.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how long it takes just to understand the rhythms of the local weather patterns, which are unfortunately changing even more these days, and the local demand for products, and getting those things lined up at the same time and understand what's going on. It takes a few years to kind of like really get it on your belt.
Yeah.
Can be a little intimidating.
It can be. And I'm finally figuring out, I think, as far as market goes, the ebb and flow of a market. And I'm not coming home with a lot of food waste. I'm taking like just enough lately. And that's been nice because, we do have a local food bank that we can donate to. I know it's great to donate to the local food bank. I wish ours had food production associated with it. So like there's one where my daughter goes to school in North Carolina. And so they receive food waste from farms, but then they create soup. And so they're not handing someone a head of lettuce, they're handing them a soup or a pasta dish or something that like they're literally passing out prepared meals from farm over spill food waste from, and it's a great nonprofit. It's a really great model, and one of my goals is to see if we can find a way to implement that here. Their business model, they're glad to share it. They'll give it away. They'll train you. So I don't need to do anything else in my life. But if I could find someone that wanted to run a nonprofit like this, I would. I'm ready.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're in times in your life when you're relying on the food banks and you need that access, like the amount of time you have to go home and make prepared meals is even lower. Your time poverty is such a huge issue, and be able to cut that out and get people a farm fresh meal, like that's a really cool project. I'd be interested to hear more about that sometime. That's super cool.
And they deliver. They're called The Farm Cafe, and they're in Boone, North Carolina.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll link that in the show notes for people.
Yeah, check them out. They're pretty awesome. And it's a pay what you can. at the cafe, so everyone gets to eat. And they are on King Street in the middle of the tourism right there. And there they are. And it's just like the most amazing thing.
That's so cool. I'm glad you told me about that. I'm gonna look them up later for sure.
Yeah.
Learn more about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, super cool. So we talked a little bit earlier about kind of what you produce and season, kind of your greens production. Are greens a large component of your business?
They are. Yeah. I do a lot of varieties of greens production. I sell to a restaurant in town, just one though. I mean, I'm just a little farm, compared to some of these others. And then I sell to another bi-weekly CSA, and then another farm that also has a CSA. I will supplement her as well. So I just supplement other people's CSA. And then I have another farm that I partner with, and he helps me when I'm running a little low, because I've got like greens forever, but what I'm terrible at is winter squash. And so I have not had a great luck with that. It's either the bugs or the deer will get me every time, or both. Like, but I just end up purchasing from him. And I think I'm just going to put that in my plan next year, that he'll supply my CSA for winter squash and save myself a lot of time.
Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree with that. Like, you definitely know what you're good at, and just do that to the best of your ability. And then, especially if you have a good community of growers around you, like leaning heavily on each other and like each other's weaknesses and strong points is builds a stronger food community. If we're all not trying to do the same thing that we're not good at.
Yeah, exactly. And he's great at it. And and that's what's been nice too about the farmers market, is the food community there, and getting to know the other farmers and other food producers, like mushroom growers, those that are the beekeepers, and they're my neighbor, to my left is dairy, they make ice cream. And then to my right is a mushroom grower. I mean, it's really, you can walk down our aisle and get all of the things you need for your week, and only walk like 12 feet.
Man, that's awesome. That's an ice cream vendor. I'd be in trouble. Man.
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh, that's so interesting. It's super cool. Yeah, it's great that you've been able to work with those local producers, and that's fantastic. So maybe a little bit of a change in our conversation. I want a little more about your production. How you grow the food on your farm. Maybe to start out with, what type of maybe how do you manage like tillage on your property? I know you said you use a BCS a little bit as well. So what's kind of your methodology around kind of soil health and managing your beds?
I would call myself a low-till grower. And I have certain sections of the farm which are slowly shifting into just very little tillage. And it's kind of been just a combination of figuring it out. I will definitely have a lot more to learn. But as far as like soil and soil health, I have been using the biodynamic preps. I've been following them a lot, using inoculated like compost teas that I spray seasonally. I also spray it on my compost. So I make my own compost that we apply. I source manure from another farm that is a dairy farm, and they are non-GMO organic certified dairy. I've actually am certified naturally grown. I don't know if you've heard of that group. They basically follow all of the USDA organic certification requirements. However, they take it a step further, and so you're required to practice like sustainable growing methods in regards to soil health and fertility. Like that's part of their certification, as well as maintaining pollinator habitats if possible. And just kind of, I've always wanted to just work with nature instead of against nature. So while I'm not like officially biodynamic certified, that is definitely the philosophy. And I mean like that loosely because biodynamics can get, I mean, as far as like working with nature, I'm not to the level that some of these biodynamic farmers are. We're working with the moon cycle. Like I'm getting there, I'm still learning, but I'm just thrilled that I'm able to grow anything at all, to be quite honest. But it's been a process. And so I use a lot of cover crop, green cover. Then I'll, terminate it either with like mow and tarp or this was the first year, I'm a little not sure though, that I've used a little bit of row cover on the ground, like for tomatoes and squash and things for weed prevention. And, it has its drawbacks and it has its, I definitely did less weeding and hoeing, but I'm not sure about that yet. The jury's out. It definitely helped, I think, with some of our soil issues with blight, early blight that we get in Alabama. I think it definitely helped with that. But yeah, I still have a lot to learn. So basically, I make my own compost. I'm getting it from my own chicken coop. The manure, anything we pull out of the field, we're throwing on there, all the leaves. Turning it, have at least 3 to 4 piles going at one time.
That's super interesting. My next question was when I asked you about compost. So you got me on that one. I'm glad. That's super interesting. Yeah. So how you turn your piles? Do you using a tractor to do that? Do you by hand?
Yeah, I have a tractor. I have a Kubota with a front loader. Kubota also. Yeah. They would have a workshop. I mean, this was the first year I've like as a farmer, people don't know this really. Like you're not just farming, you are also like small engine repair, plumbing, electrician. There are so many hats that you have to wear. And coming into this as someone in their late 40s, I was like, I hadn't done all of those things. I'm still not able to do all of those things, but I'm starting to get into a little bit of engine repair. I was able to service my own tractor this year. But I would love a workshop from Kubota of like all the features, like what are all the things this thing can do and me not hurt myself trying to figure it out, what do I do to take care of it? I don't know, I guess I should read the owner's manual a little more detailed, but I like hands-on kind of stuff, but yeah, so I'm using a front loader for the compost.
That's cool. Yeah, it's really interesting that you're able to source the organic manure from a local farm. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and they trade for vegetables, so
perfect.
Works.
That's that's how it should be. That's a great relationship. And then you mentioned also that you use some of the manure from your hen laying operation as well in that.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and like we collect all the leaves on the property, and just blow them into piles and pull them over there as well.
Yeah, so if you can stack all those functions and use all the quote unquote waste from all these things and feed them back into your fertility, you really can't go wrong with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then all the kitchen scraps, it's just a full cycle. I mean, that's back into that word biodynamics of everything working together in nature. It seems to be working so far.
That's fantastic. And on your site, of the 3 acres, do you have any of that? I think you mentioned earlier about some tunnels on a shade cloth, but do you use season extension as well on your farm?
Yeah, I do. I have 3 season extension greenhouses, and 2 are part of the NRCS program. Where you're able to receive a grant for a certain allotted square footage for greenhouses. So that's been a great program. I just put one in, I think it's 70 by 40. The first one is 40 by 50. And then I have another smaller one that was just sort of brought from another farm, like in pieces.
Okay.
At the end, I put it together and we're like, we still have all these pieces left. I hope it doesn't fall apart. But so far, so good. And then I have a small propagation greenhouse. It's up closer to the homestead, which so it can have electricity. Others do not. Yeah. And then we water with pond water, which is catch from the rain, and the property behind me, which is just a hunting camp, hence the deer. they're running, and then they're like, oh, look.
Yeah, plenty of water and food.
Plenty of water and food. We've
Yeah.
been being shut out of there, so but we've run over here. So yeah, there's just a hunting club behind me, thousands of acres of that. And so for now.
Yes. So the pond irrigation, is it like a well? Is this pressurized off the pond water, and then do you use drip overhead?
Drip and overhead, yeah. And I can usually run 2 to 3 sections at a time. If I'm running drip, I can usually run one overhead and then like still use a hand sprayer at the same time. So we get pretty good pressure, I think, because it's a pond versus a well, because that takes time to build pressure, and the pond is just always there.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, we were worried at first about how deep it was, how long it was going to last, but I have not had an issue at all.
Oh, that's super good.
So,
and how you said it'll do about 2 or 3 sections at a time. I think you just said. How do you break down your blots and your beds on your farm?
about 100 by 50.
Okay. Oh, wow. So it can do 2 or 3 100 by 50s at a time.
Yeah, if one is drip, I could do one overhead, but I wouldn't say 50. I say a section would be 100 by 4, or it would be watering 5 feet on each side, 100 by 10.
Okay, gotcha.
100 by 10.
Gotcha.
Each overhead sprays 5 feet in all directions.
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess my sections, because I'm like, oh, these are brassicas, this is cut greens,
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. And then you mentioned it earlier. I wanted to circle back to it. You said about putting shade cloth on those tunnels in the summer and growing in them, that they're kind of like a hotbed for pest issues and for some other bacterial issues as well. Is that just because of the insects just have a nice, cool place to go to, and they're flocking to that from the heat?
Yeah, definitely. And I was at another friend's farm who mentioned that too. They never had a grasshopper issue until they put up their greenhouse, and now the greenhouse is just a grasshopper breeding hotel. And now they have grasshoppers, and they're like, what the heck, So yeah, it has its drawbacks, but I'm finding that in the summer, if you're going to get one of these types of greenhouses, having the roll up size, having is the way to just open it up as much as you possibly can. I want to add some solar fans in there this year to help move the air through. And as far as the bugs, there's all kinds of greenhouses out there I've discovered after purchasing them. I'm like, oh, you can actually get them with bug netting. I didn't know that was a thing. But it is. So this year, my shade cloth, I got it to be longer than the greenhouse. So it kind of covers over when the sides are rolled up. And then we released ladybugs.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah, with children, of course, on a farm tour. It was part of the so, right. So
that's fantastic. Probably made lifelong memories. They probably loved that.
Oh my gosh, I'd never had so many ladybugs in one spot in all my life. I enjoyed it like a kid. I'm like a kid myself, but yeah, so adding beneficial bugs for sure. I'm going to try and do better about my nitrogen in the greenhouse. I think that's part of my aphid issue in the winter. So they hadn't been cover cropped. So this year I've done a crop of buckwheat in there, and we'll see what happens. And so trying to add that in, because I'm only in my 3rd season, right? So some things have been going for 2 years, and this was the first time I've rested those greenhouses. And except the new one. The new one's brand new. So it's cover cropped right now, and I'll bring that into production for early spring. So
yeah, I totally hear you on that nitrogen and aphid balancing, because it can, especially into the fall, winter, it can just be a real mess. Especially if you get too much nitrogen in the soil, they can just launch off. You get into a real nasty situation.
I wish I'd paid better attention in chemistry class, because at the end of the day, that's what this whole thing is. It's like, it's chemistry. I'm like, wow. Like,
It's insane
there's
that
so
an
much
insect is
more.
linked to that.
Yeah. Oh, they're like, yeah, it's wild. We're all in this big world of just like floating around. They're really, it's really a bug world. We're just part of their world. They're in us, they're on us, they're how we digest our food. The one thing I will going back to the soil fertility, I've had these aha moments of like going back to like my background in like food and nutrition and healing my gut. It's the same with the soil, and it's a reflection of. And so, the food that we eat, if it wasn't, if it was grown in conventional ways, like it's upsetting our gut, it's upsetting that whole biodome, because, if people are using conventional pesticide and fertilizers, it's just not what's naturally occurring in nature. And our body doesn't know what to do with it, and then the bad bugs get overpopulated. And here we are. It's like having aphids in your greenhouse because you have too much nitrogen, but the same is going on in our gut because we have too much sugar in our gut or whatever. And so that bacteria that feeds on it is overgrowing and we're sick.
Yeah, I think we often underestimate the value of balancing and having those. And once those things get offline, it's so whatever it be. It's when things are offline. It's so hard to get things right back up, and there's so many unintended consequences that come from that imbalance. Especially it's kind of funny. I think especially in hoop houses, I think people will try, and especially after the summer, head into winter greens, and they'll put down tons of nitrogen, before they plant that green crop. And next thing you know, you're riding through the winter with all these aphids. And on my own operation, I've had times where we got aphids in the tunnel in the fall. They made it through the entire winter, couldn't get rid of them, and then in the spring, they just flew out and infested my entire farm with aphids. Yeah.
See,
It's Aphid
Hotel.
It's Aphid Hotel. And, when you've had the same lineage of aphids on your farm for 9 months, you're like, I have to get rid of these. I have to get rid of these aphids. Can't keep.
Well, I'm trying beneficial nematodes. So I'm just trying to get my timing right now. We've been in a drought. So I'm trying to kind of get these greenhouses that are just been, cover crop and maybe a little dry at the moment. I'm trying to bring them up and get them ready to receive those. And we'll see. I don't know. It's a lot of effort, but we'll see. I think applying things like that on a regular basis, we'll hopefully reap results, right? Or they wouldn't be on the market. They wouldn't be trying to sell it to me, I hope.
Yeah. Exactly. I should have asked you this earlier, but what's your soil type where you're farming?
I am in a sort of a river basin, so it's really great. I mean, I've got slate about 7 feet down. And so the water, though, it doesn't absorb deep, so it does kind of run through a little, but there's some clay for sure. But it's been workable. I think, I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know how to explain it. We have really good topsoil. And prior to me too, in my area, the previous homeowner had goats and horses, and it was just pasture. So I'm really lucky that nothing has ever been sprayed on these fields, and they did not do anything with the hay on the pasture, because oftentimes when they're in hay production, at least here in the South, in hay production, Roundup, a version of it, is part of that process. And so it's been hard to find people that don't use that product or some other products that I don't want in my soil. But lucky for me, they bought their hay.
That's super. Yeah. That's a lucky get. Are there a lot of other growers? You mentioned, that a lot of folks come to the pepper market. Are there a lot of growers in your direct area?
In my direct area, I would say we're all within 45 to 2 hours of each other.
I'm sorry, I should have said it differently. No, in your where your farm's at, are there a lot of other growers?
Not in this exact spot. There's a couple of there's some berry production, some blueberry farms, a strawberry farm, muscadine, and some wineries, but not like vegetable production. They're starting to pop up a few. I'm starting to see people getting into it. I feel like it's definitely, especially around here, there's definitely a market for it, and we need more. Like I don't think we can have enough. It's like, and the size farm that I am, I don't know how well I'm doing business wise yet. Well, it's yet to be determined by the end of the year here, but I'm terrible at that part. I'll be honest. I just have an accountant, and she'll tell me if I'm in trouble, and I'm really focused on the farm, and it's like two different brains to have to come in the house and then sit down with a spreadsheet and like run through numbers, and that's not my strong suit. I don't like it. I really don't. But I'm breaking even right now, but my point being, like, we need more everywhere. Like I'm a rebel. I'm going to like shake it up. I want to like break the food system that we currently have and say, like, we don't need these big box stores. We can get it locally. And if you can't get it locally, like, we can do a co-op and order our rice. It's like, you vote with your dollar. And all of those big box stores are part of the problem, of why we are eating food that's making us like sick and tired. And then you need to mess up because you're sick and tired. But it's like,
and it's sending all those dollars out of the community too. I think for me is the hardest part about it is that like it's like every single cent, every cent of profit is being sent to somebody, hundreds of miles away.
Or Argentina, like
yes.
Avocados and apples from Argentina. I mean, like, oh my gosh, that's so far.
Totally. No, I'm glad you brought up finances, because I think it's a hard thing for farmers to talk about. And because it's like, one, it's so personal, but also it's like we put so much work in, and then at the end of the day, if things don't work out for us, it's one of the worst feelings, I think, for me personally, down deep. Just like it hits you right in the gut.
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's like in my mind, I'm working it out in the wash. Like it's washing through my brain. I'm like, well, I have this much in restaurant sales and that much at the market, and I need this much for payroll. I mean, it pays for itself, right? And if I sell flowers and restaurants, like that's really covering my labor costs, and so far, I've been lucky that I've been able to maintain stability and breaking even, but all it takes is like a weather event, or like, I heard a deer running through and eating all the lettuce in one night, like I'm dependent on knowing, like I was doing some calculations today, and it was like, okay, that little, 30 by 40 square, that's like $3,000 for this portion of the season, and I was calculating like how much lettuce is left, like how much I'm going to pre-sell, how much is going to market. And like in my mind, I'm working it out in the wash, but I really need to sit down on my spreadsheet and work it out in real time on with the numbers. But at the same time, like if you're a farmer, you want to go with the flow, and you're just like trying to stay in flow. And in a way, it's almost like a spiritual thing, it feels like, where if I am doing my best, I feel like it's always going to work out. If I start really focusing in on the numbers and like putting my energy into worrying about it, all that worry will manifest itself, So if I can just keep, I don't know, at the end of the day, I'm sure my accountant would say you can't manifest your books to look any better than they do. But
but you did it. You hired an accountant, which I think is the first step. If you don't like dealing with numbers, you have to have somebody whose job it is to look at the numbers.
Oh yeah, and I mean, she's a bargain. She keeps me straight, and I had to do, I hired her like as I became an adult, which I think I didn't become an adult until I was 46. because prior to that, I was married and I had a partner, and that was like his job. And then at 46, I became a real adult. I mean, like I married my college boyfriend. So, and I've really had to like step up and like learn all aspects of adulting now that I had like depended on him to handle those things, right? And so, um, it's kind of like I'm become the masculine and the feminine, or however you balance a relationship. Like just having that ebb and flow of a relationship. I feel like I do carry a lot now because I'm carrying all of it for myself and my daughters. But that's partly why I'm here and why I bought this farm too. It's part of that journey of me just sort of working out my emotions and hopefully healing my heart, which is why I chose the name of the farm, which is Love Light Farm, which is an ode to the Grateful Dead and turning on your love light. And it's really, because I was really broken. I was really sad from that experience. And this has been what has really like brought me back to life and to loving a different part of myself, that doesn't need the partnership, like because I'm whatever my dharma is for this life, I'm not going to have it for the whole journey. And that's okay. I'm enjoying the journey and the process. I think.
Yeah, and the farm is so healing. Just to share with you, I went through similar. I went through a divorce as well, and my time, like my 5 years on the farm after my divorce, just being able to go out there and heal on the land, I think for me was one of the most beneficial parts of my life, and also being able to have my friends come be on the land with me. It made a place where people always knew where I was at. Like they knew I was in the fields, and they would just say, "Hey, how's he feeling today?" They stop on by. It was little.
Oh, nice.
It was such a
Yeah.
But being on the land, I thought it was just a spiritual experience that when you're going through so much heartache and so much hard times, it can really be a strong, safe place to be at.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm thankful for this space, and I'm really blessed every day that I get to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it sounds like you've really built, you're building your dream there, and really what you envision in your heart is coming into the field itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even asked him when we were newlyweds, I was like, "Do you think we could live on a farm and grow our own food and homeschool our children?" And he was like, "No." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, darn. Well, here I am."
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm happy that you got this, and that's you're living your farm dream, and I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it really is. It's been a dream, and always something that I've kind of wanted, even if I didn't know that I wanted it. I don't know. As a little girl, my grandmother spent a lot of time with me outside, and she always had a garden, and she was always growing stuff for me just to dig up so that I could go through that process. And so many thanks to you, Granny, for all the potatoes you planted for me to dig up.
But those moments are so important, and really put down those, no pun intended, it really seeds us, really helps us, gets in our head. You can't get rid of it. So you're doing a lot of production, a lot of things. I keep hearing, more selling different accounts, markets. It's a lot of work. How do you find balance? You said you have a family there. How do you find balance between working on the farm, taking care of your family, social life? Sometimes they're all the same thing, but how do you make it work at a Loving Lake farm?
Oh, I'm not sure if I am making it work yet. I guess I am. I mean, I'm here, right? We're talking, laughing. Having a schedule is key. And me even like having my work day sort of like, okay, like I prioritize to be in the fields for a chunk of time. The kids know it, especially summer is a little harder, I feel like, because I even have FOMO, everybody's on vacation. You're like, oh God, I wish I were at the beach and not out here like cutting okra. It's itchy and it's hot, and I think I'm having a heat stroke. But you enjoy the Bahamas. But, I do suffer from FOMO during high vacation times. I won't lie, a little sadness. But this year, like I said earlier in the podcast, I'm going to like revamp my seasons where I'm going to have the summer be a little more open for just value added products and being able to have family time. I think one way I've been able to balance it this year is that I have two amazing team members, and I could not do it without Betsy and Jill. I trust both of them. Jill doesn't live far from the farm, and she has been like the best farm sitter. So I'm able to travel some. Even if I'm like, hey, I got to go to the soccer game in the evening, I can't do the evening chores, like she can come over and help with that. So that has really been key, I think. And I think just surrounding myself with more people that are wanting to learn and wanting to just gain a positive experience from being on the land, like we were talking about, because I love having the space for people to come and just have these experiences and feel that they're able to like maybe heal a little bit from being with nature, because like that's the best, right? I mean, it's just to be out here with the sun in your face and the dew on the ground, and maybe it's crisp one morning, or like seeing that amazing sunrise and like seeing the sun come up with like through the greens. Maybe there's a drippy, spider web with dew all over it. Like those are like people, it's the best. And so when I get to have those kinds of experiences, finding a way to like prioritize, those scheduling is really key, and having someone to help me when I can't always be here. And like really just keeping that calendar updated and knowing what's coming. And having this year too, I hired another friend of mine, Sarah, who has worked for an urban farm for years and several other farms. And she sat with me in January of last year, and we plotted out the entire season. Like every round of seeding, everything, and it's all on a Google Calendar. And so I can just open that every day and say, okay, here's what the week looks like. Here's what the day looks like. And that has taken a lot of anxiety off my plate, because prior to that, my first farm manager, he was just like, oh, we're just going to wing it. We're just going to wing it. And that did not work. It caused a lot of stress. So I think the more organized the back office, the better. And then having a great group of people that are willing to help out.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I know that's going to help people, our listeners, help them find their center. And it sounds like we're leaning on our community and planning. And that sounds like a great way to keep yourself sane.
And have time for yourself. I will say I could work on that one a little bit more. Right now, it's just kind of like Sundays are my day off, and but I'm starting to get back into my meditation practice. I was a yoga teacher for years, and I think part of my healing journey was like I kind of had to walk away from that for a minute, because I was leaning into that so hard. Is like, this is what's keeping me alive. And so I had to just put it away and like want to come back to it. And so whatever it is for anybody that helps them feel grounded, find that you're using your tools, because there's a lot of tools out there to ground you, so many. But find something that works and add that into your daily and into your weekly. I'm talking to myself because it's in my weekly, but it's not necessarily always in my daily.
No, I totally agree with that. And I feel like the season can just get so hectic at times. It can get so easy to let that thing just fall to the side.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. July 20th. Yeah. 103 and you're in the okra at noon.
Yeah. Oh, man. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. This has been an amazing interview, and you've really shared a lot with the listeners. I know folks are going to be excited to learn more about you. I'll have them check out your Instagram. It's what's your tag on Instagram?
It's Love Light Farm AL, like Alabama.
Okay. Well, we'll put that in the notes so folks can learn more about you and reach out.
Yeah, definitely. We have fun events out here too. I'll have a big one next weekend. We have our third annual chili cook-off for our rivershed, our watershed. It's the Coosa River Keepers. And so they're doing good work. We actually have like one of the dirtiest states in the union where we have all these coal ash ponds that haven't been cleaned up. So one of them is really close to me. And so I'm real passionate about educating community and how we're gathering it to just politely ask that they please clean that up, because they've done it in other states all over the United States as these coal plants are no longer in use. It's like, if you just please clean it up, that would be great.
I love the kind way in which you ask people to clean up, industrial coal waste. Just please, if
Please.
you don't mind.
We don't really like having all the side effects in our health and in our drinking water. So swimming water and like can't eat the fish,
Yeah.
It's like that group does an amazing job with community and like educating people with if it's safe to swim and if it's safe to eat the fish.
Makes sense. Yeah. I can totally see that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your season, and don't overheat out there.
Okay. Awesome.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
A huge thanks again to Jennifer for taking time off her schedule to sit down with me and chat about her project. Running a farm business is an insane amount of work and stressful, but being on the land and feeding your community just has a way of uplifting and empowering us through tough times. If you want to learn more about Love Light Farm, check out their Instagram or website for more information. We have a lot of fun interviews coming up this season, and I can't wait to go on this journey with all of you and share these inspiring stories. If you want to connect with me or message me directly, you can do so on my Instagram at Old City Acres. Have a great week, y'all. Try not to work too hard out there.
All right, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Always make sure to check the links in the show notes for how to follow our guests and hosts. The No-Till Market Garden podcast is a free show that is supported by folks like you who contribute every month over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. That support helps ensure all the shows we do, from the Seed Farmer podcast to the Winter Growers podcast, the Collaborative Farming podcast, the Composter podcast, Growers Daily, and of course the No-Till Market Garden podcast, can continue to go and grow. You can also find books and hats as well as an active forum over at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge thank you to editor Michael Sellis and producer Jackson Roulette for all their work on this show and the rest of the team over at no-tillgrowers.com. Otherwise, thank you all for listening, and make sure you are subscribed wherever you're hearing this so you don't miss the next episode of the No-Till Market Garden podcast. See you then.